Mindspeed conversation where we elevate leadership through brain, heart, and nerve. Today, I'm delighted to join by Iman Saeed Ali, founder and CEO of Fursa Foundation, whose work is transforming opportunity for young people across Gulf Cooperation Council through education, leadership, mentorship, and obviously purpose. So please join me welcoming Iman Said Ali. I was reading your chapter. You recently published the book She Rises. So I have the book in my hand. And I was reading your chapter and I'm like, I need to ask you something. I don't want to look at your bio and I need to know more than what your bio said. So, if I may ask, if someone loves you very much and want to introduce you, how would they introduce you, you think?
Briefly, I would say first, thank you, Aisha, for having me. This is an honor, and it's quite a unique experience being here. Great first question, I would say. I really never thought about it in that sense where if somebody would introduce me, how they would introduce me. But one of the first words that I guess would come up in my head would be resilient. I think a lot of people would definitely, and I've heard it many times, where due to so many things in life, I would say that they would definitely identify me as a person that's resilient, that will rise up from the ashes, I guess you could say, and stop at nothing to accomplish whatever needs to be accomplished.
Rising up from nothing. And I would like to know what's happening in your life that made you to say that, yeah, I belong to the group where I can say that I'm the person who rised up. What was the gist of everything? How do you see that?
I think with we all have grew up in certain environments and transitioned and seen different things come up in our lives. And many of us have, so we thought as young as we were, we always would think that I know the trajectory of my life and I know where I'm going. Unfortunately, that's not ideal. Sometimes things come up in life and you have to maneuver and find ways that you can definitely adapt. And adaptability is crucial in life. So there have been some mishaps in my career, especially because I did actually study biology. I have a degree in biology, microbiology, and I minor in chemistry. However, I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to go a defaulted path or to go a different path. It kind of just fell on me, and I've had to learn to adapt with it. So when as you know, maybe in the Eastern world, where if you're African, if you're Asian or anything like that, if you're dealing with parents that have certain standards for you and you go down that path, but then you're like, no, you know what, I'm going to detour and go a different direction, you get different types of reactions from parents and families. And so I had to overcome that and convince them that although I'm not going that research path anymore, which is the path I was going into, which is cancer research, I convinced them that I'm going in a different path. And that alone can plant a lot of different things within you: doubt, imposter syndrome, many different things, besides all of the feedback that you get from people, whether it's supportive or non supportive. It can be deterring and makes you question yourself constantly.
Yeah, and having that, I would say, having that awareness first, right? Having that awareness, it doesn't come easily. And there must be somebody who helped you, inspired you to have that way of seeing the world, being aware of what's happening, and so that you can adapt. So, my question will be, is there is any person behind your growth and your way of rising and seeing the world in a different way so that you can recognize the hidden talent that you have inside of you?
Obviously, you read the chapter, Aisha, so you
Yeah.
definitely know that my whole chapter definitely stems from the childhood I had and the growth that I had. Obviously, my chapter stems from the life that my father created for me, and it stems from me trying to follow the path that he created. Obviously, my father was more than just my father, and I'm not speaking about him just because I'm his daughter or anything like that. My father was a great example of what it is to be a leader and to be a supportive system for anyone that needs it. And I was definitely taught from a very young age that with empathy, a lot of things can go in life, and you have to show empathy for people in order
Mm.
for you to succeed. So I saw my father working. We I was born and raised in Yemen, and my father was a finance officer over in a company there. We lived there our whole life, really my whole young life. He lived there for about 30 years. We moved to the United States, so he had to shut off his life in Yemen and move to the United States for the sake of his children. So I think he was a very successful accountant for a company and decided to up and leave for his children to go to the US. So I was about 8 years old when that happened, and I can see definitely there was a change. When we arrived in the US, he was working as a social worker. So you can see the definite pay difference. In the United
Yeah.
States, he came and he downgraded his career for his kids. So that's a sacrifice, and that's something that I could never ever forget. And I always remember that everything that we do in life, whether it's me and my brothers and my family, we do it because we want to live on that type of empathy, because that is empathy. If you're going to give up your career to take your family to a different country for their sake, that's something admirable and can be definitely respected and has to be acknowledged. And I think that even with the chapter, although it is stemmed from my father, I would have to say that I didn't give him enough credit for the life that we lived. I tried to do the best that I could, but I know that there's more depth in there. And so not only was he an inspiration, he definitely was, it was a legacy. I have to continue the legacy that he's created. He's more than a father to me. I think he was definitely an iconic figure, so they say.
Yeah, and I must read a couple of lines that you read regarding him and his leadership. You said, that was my first real lesson in leadership. It is not about power, it's about the bravery required to hold people together when the world is trying to pull them apart. And this was the man whose legacy I would one day carry. How beautiful you linked his lessons, absorbing it and being ready to give it back to the next generation. And if I may connect with that thought, if I have met you 10 years ago, what would be the one thing that today's Iman will be surprised seeing the 10 years younger version of yourself?
Wow. Okay. So I think that's a really good question, because I'll be honest with you, 10 years ago, if you would have told me that I would write even a two-page paper that gets published, I would say you're crazy. I would never. No, I was definitely 10 years ago, I was down a science path. I was interested in research and going into down that path, and thought that I wanted to help people. I've always wanted to help people. At first, I wanted to be a dentist, and then I wanted to do research. And so my goal in life was, and this was limited, I saw that supporting and helping people was just medicine or something like that. But I think 10 years after, I would have to let myself know that there are way more options and ways you can support people besides being a doctor or researcher. And it took me a really long time to conclude that, or get to the conclusion of that. And I think that's the massive thing. But 10 years ago, the person that I was would probably not even recognize the person I am now.
Sure, sure. Yeah. And I would read another thing like, I was lost the record as quickly as I had earned it. So you mentioned that when you were telling the story regarding breaking the world record.
Ah,
And
yes.
and you also beautifully said on that page that most people expected are devastated, and I felt peace. And that was when I understood the record was never the point. The work was. The hours, the blisters, and the discipline. The summit was already happened within me. So when I was thinking of the 10 years before and 10 years after, and the way you mentioned, like it's not about the journey, it's not about the practice, it's more about being the person who went through the journey. So can you reflect a little bit on that explanation that you wrote in the chapter?
Yeah, so growing up as an athlete, you're competitive. It's in your nature. You live and breathe competition. That specific competition that I broke a world record in, that was my goal. My goal was to break a record. And I went in and practiced for the 2 years prior to that, just becoming the best version that I could possibly be in that sport. So I continuously practiced and I did what I did. When I went to the world competition, I had it in my mind that I needed to break a world record. And And I thought at the time, even the days before, the hours before breaking that record, the goal was I want my name to be seen everywhere. I want people to know that I belong and I've broken a record. When I did break it, I felt a sense of good. I did it. It was a sense of relief. But then after it was broken by somebody else, just briefly after, it wasn't disappointing. It was like, you know what? I got what I wanted, and that's all that I needed to do. But afterwards is what really mattered, because after that, the reflection back on that competition was, you know what? Not only did I become a better version, not in that competition, not when breaking that record, but the process leading up to it. So now everything that I do in my career now, with my family, with friends, with anything that I do, it's the work in progress, the day to day that motivates me. It's the day to day that gives me fire within myself. I think the end goal is just a check mark, and it's like a pinpoint, checkpoint, and then you move forward. However, it's always the process, it's always the dedication, it's always the ambition that you put in that pushes you to the next level.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way you said. And but if it doesn't happen, then how would you act? In that case, I would just want to ask you, if something scares you, what that would be? Is it failing publicly or watching not nothing, like nothing changed in you just for that result?
I think in an athlete perspective, and I always bring that up because we have a different mindset when we're competing. A failure in competition sometimes can, the problem with it is it can plant negative seeds within you, self doubt and imposter syndrome. So, but it is needed, because the more of those that you have in you, the more you can continue on and realizing that, you know what, I failed now. And the more you fail, the better it is, because then you can understand that feeling and move forward. I think the hardest part is usually when you fail at anything is the first 24 to 48 hours. They're hard times to accept the failure of some sort. And so I've committed myself in over the years as an athlete from a very young age that I give myself 3 days to dwell, to do whatever I need to do, to take it in, but it's time to dust yourself off and get up and keep moving. That's something that I've committed within myself. And I tell this to a lot of the students I work with. If you failed at something, give yourself a time frame and commit to that time frame, whether it's 24 hours, whether it's 48 hours. And you can dwell, you can cry, you can go shopping, you can do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel better. But that time finishes, you get up and you keep moving forward.
I love the idea. Now time's up. Now go and do something else.
Yeah,
I love this
exactly.
idea so much. And it's also reasonable because how long you want to carry? Do you want to carry it for 1 year, 2 years? And it'll stop you growing from other areas as well. So, from that thought, I want to look at your business, your passion, your platform that you have created for the young generation. And I can see the right side of you who is eligible to deliver that sort of commitment, the professionalism to Fursa Foundation. So, tell us a little bit about the mission of your foundation.
Okay, so Fursa Foundation is it's an organization for youth, that it's a youth empowerment organization.
Yeah.
What stemmed from the idea of Fursa Foundation, I give it just very briefly, is we connect. This is what it started off as. We connect students to internships, mentorships, and volunteer opportunities in any sector that they want. I started it out in January, and all from there till now, we've had to adapt and change different things. Although I was able to get students into internship opportunities for their own growth and their own character building, we have realized that once I connect these students to these companies, many of them lack certain soft skills. And
Mhm.
that's quite normal in the world that we live in, considering AI, considering our usage of digital things, tech, and everything like that. Some students, and not just students, even adults, lose some soft skills. So it's been my mission for the last 4 months within Forza Foundation to create a curriculum where we infuse soft skills within the youth, whether it's through schools, through institutions, through universities, to help them grow as people. As we all know, that soft skills, which are communication skills, critical thinking, empathy, emotional intelligence, all of those things not only are crucial for career growth, but they're also great for confidence building and giving you confidence as a person. The more of those skills that you have, the more confident that you are. So we've implemented those within the organization. So now not only do we provide the internships, volunteering, and mentorships for students. But soft skills are key and foundational to everything that I do.
And I can see that you are talking about identify the opportunity and connecting with the skill set they have, which may also require some sort of self discovery, right? So
Yes.
in through the lens of self discovery, so if I may relate to your own personal self discovery, like how did you get that self discovery experience that you can bring in to add value to the organization that you're leading now?
So obviously you make a very good point because it's funny. One of the first workshop seminars that students have to do once they are part of Fursa Foundation is a specific course called My Purpose, My Identity. And it's perfect. It's just that it establishes who you are because you cannot go anywhere if you do not know who you are, what your values are, your purpose and mission in life. So we spend about 90 minutes with students developing that part. For me, as a young person, I was forced to actually monthly I had to read a book every month, and I had to submit
Yeah.
an essay to my father every month about the book that I've written. And I used to think it was like she's just trying to fill my time. I'm not understanding what the point of this is. But as I grew older, I've obviously grew out of certain types of books and transitioned into others. In my 20s, I started really getting into personal development. I became very passionate about personal development, what it is. I spent months figuring out what my mission in life is, what my vision in life is. And so from there, that's when I noticed that once I accomplished or figured out what my mission was, life knew exactly where I needed to go. So I was like, okay, my mission is this. Then I need to do this. I need to connect with this person. I need to conversate with this person. Conversations with people became easier. Getting things done became easier. I realized that once I identified who I am, my purpose in life, everything else just made sense. So now it's my duty, and I feel like it's very important that the first thing that I do with students is their identity. Who are you? What's your purpose? And what's your mission in life?
Love that. It's not about what you're writing on your resume. It's not about what you're writing on your LinkedIn profile. It's beyond that. It's having the clarity inside so that you know what exactly you're intended to share to the world and the way you want to see, the through the lens of your intention, not anybody else's, not through the
Yes.
noise that you are having. And I feel like there is a big gap in, especially for the young generations. They get easily disrupted. They hear they're in too many places. They get easily influenced by other people where they think I should also do this, I should also do that. And having that clarity is, I would say, is a very deep level of work you're contributing to the young generation. And I want to move to the next level of professional development, right? So personal development, personal branding, identity. This is so deep level of them ourselves. Now, if we bring that out and move it to our professional level, I was reading some of your part, and I would just mention you mentioned about your dad, obviously, and you also mentioned about one of your mentor who saw something inside of you and that you did not recognize, and that pushed you to believe in yourself and saying yes to bigger responsibilities. So tell us a little bit about the value a mentor can provide to somebody else's life through the reflection of you, what you have received through your mentor.
So yeah, this is obviously my chapters based off my father, but it also had to a couple of other people that influenced me and helped me grow. So the reason people will read the chapter, I'm not going to give it up of why I called the chapter "The Seed Not Watered," but there is a reason behind that. It's a metaphor behind that. And mentors, and I think this is a big reason why we've involved mentorship within Fursa Foundation. For me, after my father passed away, I think a lot of the character building, a lot of the things that I have had in my life, not disappeared, but kind of got buried with all the grief that I was dealing with. So I was maneuvering through life, just ABCD, just doing my thing and coming back. But when I started my career at my previous role, I was working as an admissions officer in a university, and it was great. I was doing my day-to-day thing, but there was a certain mentor that I've worked with that definitely pushed me beyond my limits. Even they recognized something, and even though I tried to push back and try to keep and stay in my lane, they were not having it. They were definitely trying to push me to go above and beyond. And I think within maybe 4 or 5 months of working there, something just triggered and I just woke up a little bit, and then things just started to click again. And you know what? It was like the old Iman was kind of woken up, and I started going and learning and adapting. And at that time, by the way, after my father's passing and everything, I was dealing with a lot of time management issues. I was dealing with a lot of distracting, and I was not up to par in anything that I did career wise. I hit a plateau. I was just running off of really nothing and not really have any ambition. Even though I didn't grow up that way, I had always was motivated to do above and beyond. But his passing and grief definitely buried a lot of that. And my mentor definitely woke that up. And I'm forever grateful for that, because I don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for that. So where my father left off, somebody picked back up. So I will always be thankful for that.
You just said, I'm not my father, but I'm a leader. I'm a proof that you can hit the bottom and rise again. The seed my father planted in the frozen morning of South Dakota nearly died in the doubt of my grief. But my mentor saw it, believed in it, and gave it the water it desperately needed. So, how beautifully you said. And I also want to read a couple of lines when you were successful leading a project. You said it was emotional, but more than that, it was revolting. Revolting that I had ever doubted myself, that I had hidden for so long, that I had been so convinced I was not capable of this. The girl who broke a world record had been hiding in teaching gigs, afraid to step into the very thing that she was built for. So, yeah, I can feel that your passion reflecting now through your foundation and your value, you're passing it to the next generation. So, now I want to ask you a little bit about your decision of transition. Like, how did you make a decision that, yeah, this is my calling, the foundation, or I have to do these, and this is how I can recognize that this is where I will go in my future? At which point you felt that connection to do something on on that road?
That's a very good question. And the part of the chapter that you read, you said the word revolt. I just want to put it out there that I spent 4 days skeptical about that word specifically, if I wanted to utilize it or change it to something else. But I ended up keeping it, and I'm glad you recognized and read that. So I think for me, the transition is not easy whatsoever. I think it was after working in university setting as an admissions and student recruitment manager, managing a team of about 4 to 5 people, and then stepping into a little bit of a higher role when I went to UniHawk. It was definitely a wake up call, because I was definitely seeing a gap within the youth in Doha and in the region. I guess there's because I worked in the region and saw and interacted with many students. There was a massive gap, and I just couldn't bear to just continue seeing it. I was lucky enough growing up that I had a really great support system in preparing me for higher education, for a career, for anything like that. So it was disheartening to see that many students had the grades, had the ambition, and they had the capabilities to do the best that they can possibly do. And then a lot of them had the grades to go to university, but some of them just lacked that middle area where it was like the confidence and the soft skills that they needed to go from this to that. It's as simple as knowing how to run an interview or how to answer questions in an interview, critical thinking, and a lot of them lack some of the emotional intelligence or even just identifying emotions in others and how they can decipher that and treat people in certain ways based on the emotions of those people. So for me, I continuously saw this gap over and over. And I won't lie, there were times where I was like, okay, somebody will see the gap eventually and someone will do something about it. And you know what? As much as I maneuvered through all of this working with school counselors and schools and institutions, I realized that they can only do so much. And institutions and schools, our teachers are busy, counselors become so overwhelmed with the amount of students that they work with that I decided that, you know what, I'm going to take this risk and go for it and see how many students I can support. If I help just one, then I've done my part. But definitely not an easy transition, a very difficult transition. It's uncomfortable. It's a constant uncomfortable, but I guess we wouldn't have it any other way. If we stayed in comfort, we wouldn't really get anywhere.
And through the journey of accepting the discomfort, do you recognize any part that you had to let go from yourself? I don't want to be like this anymore, or I don't want to act like this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So, do you recognize any part in you that you had to let go of?
Yeah, when you are managing a group of people, empathy and emotional intelligence and understanding people's concerns and all that is crucial. It's at the core of what you do. And now that when you are transitioning and you're running something systematically like this and you are influencing the youth and everything, you have to implement that within the students and the youth that you work with, even the parents that you work with. So the transition of, I did do that before with the youth and the parents and the students and everything like that. But now it's on a deeper level because you own this now. It's your thing. So now you really have to get it out there to the parents and students that this is needed. This is important. So what you're saying is very on point in the fact that I didn't necessarily change anything. I think it just made me a deeper person. Emotionally, I've become, because it's my passion and what I created it myself. I think I've become even more emotional about it. So since starting Fursa, like emotionally, it's overwhelming. Not only because it's mine, because I created it myself, but it really is hits the nail like on top of the nail, like that. This is what I should be doing, and this is where I am, and then I get to help students on a very large scale, which is very important. So it has made me more emotional, I would just say.
And how understand the way you had to communicate not only the student but also their parents. And this is the place where you have to be more grounded, right? So is anything that you want to share with us that can help you to stay grounded in difficult situation dealing with complexity of running an organization like Farsa?
Yeah, the key thing that I always keep in mind when, with Fursa, with anything that I've done even before that, the key is always, we always do things student centered. Because I work with youth, they come as a priority, no matter what it is. And that seems to always ground me. So if things get overwhelming and everything gets chaotic, then I remember always, why am I doing this and why am I here? So it does help, and definitely helping me center myself and focus on the mission at hand. So definitely students as a priority number one. And that's how I've always functioned.
Okay, so now a little bit about yourself. If there is anything that you have done, like the biggest decision that you have made, what that was until now.
Would that be since starting Forza or just in general?
It could be anything, like what was your biggest, bravest decision or most courageous decision you have made?
I think that one of the biggest decisions that I had to make, and it's definitely impacted where I am in life right now, is definitely leaving the United States and moving out to the Middle East and living here in the GCC region. Considering that I did study biology, microbiology, wanting to go into research, that's where I did back in the States. But packing that up and coming to the GCC was definitely a risk. I didn't know what I was doing, how I was gonna handle it, but I took that risk, and I think that definitely built another branch of character in who I am.
And what excites you now? Like, how do you see the future? What excites you to that keeps you moving?
What excites me is Fursa Foundation in Qatar right now. It's growing, and we're definitely have a lot of youth on board that are definitely gonna get some really good opportunities. What motivates me and excites me is looking forward to expanding out more and reaching out to the other parts of the GCC region to help more students on a day-to-day basis. And I think my main goal and what excites me every day is seeing confident students going out into the world doing things that they're passionate about. That's always been my core of who I am. And I think that this is very important for the youth here, the youth in the region, that if you have anything that you want to accomplish in life, it is not like nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. We as a community, and I'm talking about the whole MENA GCC region as general. We as a community, we have a responsibility to help our youth to grow and to adapt to this this world, because we are struggling as adults. We as adults are transitioning into this AI world. We can all feel the transition. And I don't think anyone can say anything about that. So imagine the youth are also dealing with this change. And forget the fact that they're also dealing with the same issues that we dealt with as youth. So they have a lot on their plate, and I can definitely sense them. So it is our duty that we support them to make them the best version of who they can be, because they are the future of everything that we do. They're going to run businesses, they're going to be the ones running our universities. They will be teaching our kids, like my kids, they will be teaching them, they will be around them. So it's my duty to make sure that they are confident people that will make a difference in the world.
Beautiful. And I want to link that, as you mentioned, your kids. I know you are mom of two. So, how do you see yourself? If there is anything that you want to suggest to any mom or any parents, what are the things they should consider in terms of dealing with the young generations?
I think with, yeah, as a mother of two children and then working with youth, there's amazing connection there. Just know that your youth keep an eye on everything that you do as an adult. If you are a mother, your children are watching what you do. So be a really good example of what you do. My kids are very young, 8 and 6, but they know what I do, and they know that they think it's cool. They don't know much about it, but they think it's really cool that I get to interact with a bunch of youth. So I think as adults, we definitely have a certain thing that we can sense with the new generation. My suggestion is, because of how much I've interacted with them, is be more empathetical towards them and try to understand them. Give them a voice. And I think that this is very important. Let them speak up about their concerns. A lot of them have very valuable things to say, whether they're 8, 6 years old, like my kids, who are very opinionated, by the way, will say what they feel and sense. But the students in high school and university right now have voices, and they have solved issues, and they can do so much things for the community. And with Fursa Foundation, I am definitely going to prove how powerful youth can be, not because I will connect them to internships and mentorships and everything like that. I've actually made it my mission that Fursa Foundation will be for the youth, by the youth. So I will definitely, and people will see that Fursa Foundation will be ran by students. That's the goal. It's for me to prove to people that we have powerful youth that can do amazing things, and we have to support them in that.
Yeah, you're building the legacy. And if I may ask you, I'm curious, think about 10, 20 years down the line, and what will make you smile, that knowing that it happened because you started something today?
I think about that a lot. Obviously, 20 years is hefty. I thought about 5. I thought about 10, but 20 is hefty. But in 20 years' time, if I'm around, or if anyone is, if I'm around, it'd be cool to kind of see a student or somebody that I helped out come back to me and say that because of this that you did for me, I was able to do this. As simple as that. Then that's amazing, because that's what was come. That was my life. If me going back to mentors or people that supported me and saying I did this because of you, I would think and hope that they see that as an accomplishment if they haven't accomplished anything else in the world.
Beautiful. Iman, if I may ask you, what is leadership in your word?
Leadership is, I think, empathy, and like empathy, but on a deeper level, and not just understanding, feeling people. It's putting yourself in someone else's shoes, walking in those shoes, and then making a decision from there. That's what I see as leadership. Because if we can put ourselves in other people's shoes, then I think empathy will take over before we even realize. So I think that's what the core of what leadership is. Obviously, we can go much deeper into that, but take yourself out of your shoes, put yourself in someone else's shoes. That is leadership. That's understanding. Then that will give you the answer of what I should be doing in the next steps.
And what do you mean by rising, like to yourself?
Rising it's a big word. It's ambition. It's perseverance. It's letting yourself, you know what? It's whatever comes my way, I'll still rise no matter what. And that's easier said than done sometimes, but with enough practice and enough failures. So I think it's the more failures you have, the better rising is, and the more feels better when you rise after failure and failure. So fail more and you will know what rising is.
And you have a quote saying, you were never meant to fit into a space they carved for you. You were meant to outgrow them until the wall came down. So, to you, how do you define the walls?
Now the walls have even become more since I wrote that quote. I think the world is adapting, but the more we live, the more walls come up. And I've learned that they're not going to stop. We're going to get more walls. We're going to have more issues. We're going to deal with so much more. But the daily thing that I've told myself every single day when I wake up is just get up and go. That's the thing I've been telling myself. Get up and go. Whatever it is, just get up and go and do it. If you'll have bad days, you'll have days where you don't do anything. You'll have days that you feel like I'm not getting anywhere, I'm not accomplishing anything. But then it's not about it's not about those day-to-day things. It's larger scale. Looking at things on a larger scale, then we can get closer to those steps. So the walls are everything. The walls are the media, the walls is the dilemmas that we're dealing with in the world. There's so many walls coming up. But because I feel like if I can overcome those walls, then I can pull a generation behind me. And that's my vision in that.
Yeah, beautiful. And I just want to mention the morning. You said just go and do it. So I love the approach to start every day. So do you practice anything in the morning as your some sort of morning routine? Is there is any practice that you have every morning?
Yeah, I definitely, because I dealt with so much time management issues in the last before getting to
Mhm.
where I am, I have to have like a to-do list that I create. So I usually create my to-do list for the day next, the day before, just so I don't, in the mornings, then I go over that to-do list and then I definitely check it over and see if it aligns in that. But being grateful is one of those things that subconsciously I get in my car and the first thing is I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this. And then I say whatever happens, the rest of the day happens. And that's just how I've managed in the last maybe 3 years, I would say.
Wow. And you also mentioned in the book saying, that is my father's empathy and my mentors believe growing and multiplying every single day through me. So that what I can see like is a growing and multiplying effect in you through the work that you're doing and passing that to other people that you're helping. I have one more question and then we can wrap up. So the question is, if I may ask you, if somebody like you as a leader, as a mom, as a mentor, as somebody who want to see the legacy through the next generation, so how do you define leading with brain, heart, and nerve?
It's a good question. So I think that leading with brain, you said brain,
Heart and nerve.
heart, and nervous system. So with brain, obviously with knowledge and leading with what you know, the strategies that you've created, which is very important, by the way. But over the years, it's become less important than the heart, which is where empathy lies and where emotional intelligence lies. You have to understand that we've come in an era that with strategy, with all of the hard skills, you can teach it to anyone. You can teach it yourself. You can do all these things. But with empathy, it's something that you have to work at for sure. And you have to find it within yourself. But leading in with those three things stems specifically from identifying yourself. And we go back in circle now to where we started. Once you have that self confidence, that understanding of who you are, that identity, I think anyone that you lead will understand what you're trying to get to, the point that you're trying to get across, because they know what they want, so then they can definitely piece those two things together. A lot of youth deal with this issue because they haven't identified themselves. So I always tell them, if they're confused about certain specific things, take it back a notch, identify yourself, because that then that empathy gets built with self identity without even you realizing it. And I'll tell you this, and I say it to my kids, I say it to the youth I work with, people will not understand the value of empathy until AI gives us nothing more but to be empathetical to people. And that's what's going to happen in the next, if it hasn't happened already, in the next couple of years. AI has given us back what we need from the beginning, which is empathy. We just need to utilize it correctly.
And that's like forcing me to ask another question. I know you talk about the AI and impact of AI in that youth and leadership in replacement of human skill. Is there anything that you want to make a point to our young generation or to the listener they should be aware of that AI we should consider or shouldn't consider in that zone, in that area?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I talk about in many events, even here, when we talk about AI in education and AI with youth, the thing is, AI is not going anywhere. We can all agree that AI will be here forever. And a lot of people say AI has taken over. That's what they say. What I think is, and I actually think the opposite, I think AI has actually given us something back. I think AI has taken the skills that we were taught that are crucial, the hard skills, learning how to do certain things when it comes to hard skills. AI has taken that back. It's taken that from us, but it's left us with something that AI can never ever do, which is feel for people, which is care, which show empathy to people. And I said empathy like a million times in this, but it's true. It's given us back those things. And for some people, they're struggling with it because they haven't tapped into that yet. So, my suggestion for people is acknowledge that AI is crucial and needed for our lives. However, you need to recognize that because AI took those skills away from you, you need to replace it with something that's human centered, and that's empathy and emotional intelligence. Tap into those. That's my highest, I think, biggest advice for people. Tap into empathy, tap into emotional intelligence, because that's the future of life. That's the future of interaction with humans, whether you are a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, whatever you are. Those are the two key things that you need in life, and adaptability. If you add those three things, you will succeed in life. But don't say AI has taken over. AI has not taken over. We're still humans, we're still here. You need to tap into empathy, emotional intelligence, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And you know what? When, as a human, when we create the space and we can build the connection, we can build a bigger meaning of what we're doing. But to some extent, the system is blocking us to think beyond what we have. It's more strategy focused, it's more system focused, but we are not talking about the soft side of the soul side of the
Oh, yeah.
system working behind where the empathy and emotion comes in. So loved it. I love the connection that you're building. And the most valuable key point for me is AI is not taking over, it's actually giving us back what we really need to reinforce, especially for the world where there is a lot of chaos, a lot of mistrust. We have to build that together, building that connection back together as a human. And I want to ask you, if somebody want to connect with you, what will be the best way to connect with you?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Iman Saeed Ali. You can actually follow also my Fursa Foundation page on LinkedIn. You will see all of the, everything that we do here in Doha. You can also follow me on Instagram, Iman Saeed Ali. You can see my day to day. You can also email me or or my phone number. I can definitely, you can also definitely reach out if you have any, if you feel like you have an input in what I do with youth that could be very helpful. I would be more than happy to take people on. I'm looking forward to expanding in the region as we are a youth organization, but definitely for the MENA and GCC region. And if you feel like you could be a great mentor, I'm always searching for mentors. So definitely reach out to me as I'm always needing support with the youth. And I've said it before and I say it again that this is not something that I'm building for myself or for my own. This needs to be a community collaborative work. So the more support I get, the more successful it can be.
Absolutely. And with the post, I will also add the link and
Mm.
also your LinkedIn link and the Fursa Foundation's link so that everybody can follow both for the youth and for the mentor so we can connect together.
Awesome.
And
Perfect.
thank you so
Perfect.
much for your time. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking us through with your journey, your story, and giving us all the enlightening moment and the bits and pieces that we can take forward for us. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Ayesha. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this episode of Mindspeed Conversation. If today's conversation inspired you, if you like to share this conversation with other people, feel free to do that. And if there is somebody else in your community, in your family, or in your friends who would also like to learn how to lead with brain, heart, and nerve, please join the conversation. See you in the next conversation.